Hello and welcome to I Have a Problem. My name is Josh Galbraith and I have a problem. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about a little thing called wardrobe psychology. What is wardrobe psychology? Well, first of all, it's absolute bullshit that I made up, so I'd have something to talk about this episode, but we'll get a little bit more into that as we go on. So, I guess as a preamble, you kind of have to figure out what your wardrobe wants to do so you know how to get dressed. That's just a stupid way of saying that if you know what your day holds, then you kind of know how to get dressed. When you go to the beach, you wear beach clothes. When you go to work, you wear work clothes. When you're hanging out with friends, you probably have on a more casual fit. The problem is that a lot of times we'll sit there and buy a lot of clothes thinking that that's what we need to kind of round out our wardrobe, but it's not always necessarily the case. Now, I have friends that I guess would lead what I would call a specialty lifestyle, meaning that they probably do one thing for like 90% of their week. So one of my friends, he drives trains. So most of his fits are just going to be his MTA uniform. You don't really need to overly complicate anything like that. So the rest of his clothes are basically there for all the other occasions in his life, be they formal or casual. So the thing that I wanted to think about was, what is your life like? And I don't mean that in the weird existential kind of way, where you probably start thinking about what you have and haven't accomplished, which is fine. You're doing great. I'm sure you're doing great. But from a wardrobe perspective, if you're anything like me, then it kind of looks like this. From Monday through Friday, I'm probably going to be in the office somehow. No, I work remote now. So Tuesday through Friday, I'm going to be in the office. And every other day will be some kind of mix of those casual, formal situations that I'd mentioned earlier. Once you kind of have a decent idea of what you're going to be doing for the week, then you can start building out your wardrobe and figuring out, all right, what pieces are going to go where. This is where we move into something called versatility. And I say something called as if it's a word I coined just now, but it's in the dictionary. Essentially what you want to do is find different pieces of clothes that can work with each other. So for me, my end goal for my wardrobe is to have a completely modular wardrobe. This is hard as I have a bunch of different ideas and passing tastes and likes and dislikes. So I'm not all the way there yet, but most of the things in my closet do go with everything else in the closet. Similar to how, if you've ever seen, I think it's like the Mario Bellini, that super expensive couch, I forget the name. I was really into like overpriced Italian couches during COVID because I figured if I was going to die, I might as well die on a really cool couch. But then I didn't. So then I stopped caring about them so much, especially because they have crazy ass price tags. And I actually sat on one of them when I was in a store once, and it was really, really uncomfortable. Like they all have really low backs, like for no reason. So I ended up getting this couch off of Wayfair for like $1,000. And part of what I liked about the couch was that it was modular, meaning that like you can kind of rearrange the pieces, but it also kind of wasn't modular. I kind of jigsawed it to make it that way. My goal is to have like a nice modular couch that I can add pieces in. If I ever move from this apartment, get to a bigger apartment, downsize to a smaller apartment, so it can kind of adapt to my lifestyle. In the same way, your wardrobe should ideally do something similar to this. You want it so that you can go from work to drinks with friends kind of in like one fell swoop without looking too crazy. Like I'm pretty sure you've had that moment that I've had where you're at work wearing like an Oxford and chinos and maybe like some whack ass loafers. And then you remember that you have to go out with your friends in a few hours and everyone else is probably going to have on really chill fits because maybe they didn't work that day or maybe they had time to go home and change or something like that. But if you don't, then you're going to be like the one. Like one time I pulled up to this art show that a friend of mine was having and everyone was dressed in these like really cool outfits. And I came in looking like a narc because, you know, everyone has, I don't know, whatever. Enter in the meta fit du jour of 2022. All in all, it wasn't a great fit day for me, but whatever. You go to the party, you have fun. But that did get me thinking, what if I had a fit that could take me from point A to point B, and I know I don't look out of place in either one of those settings? So I set about kind of having this versatile wardrobe. How this looks for you, right? Because I always preach to kind of try to make versatile what you have already, and then if necessary, you can backfill some items, but only after you've kind of figured out what you want to buy. Which leads us to our third point, price per wear. So everything's super duper expensive, obviously. Clothes are expensive. Luxury brands have been raising their prices. Brands that aren't luxury have been raising their prices. Target's been raising their prices. So clearly this isn't something that's just affecting those of us who like to spend inordinate amounts of cash on clothes. But that being said, it means that you probably have to be a little bit wiser about where you're dropping your bread. So what people in the fashion sector like to do, or at least the ones that I hung out with, they told me about price per wear. Essentially, this means that you would think about how much you wear an object, and then you would divide that by the price, and that's your price per wear. So if you have an item that costs you $100 and you wore it 10 times, it costs $10 per wear, and so on. You can use this method kind of to justify an exorbitant purchase, but it should be a purchase, right, in theory, that you're going to use a lot. So the best way to kind of use this is for shoes, coats, sweaters, things that generally last a good amount of time. Think about things that you've seen at a vintage shop and you're like, wow, I can't believe this is from the 1940s, right? Those are the kind of things that usually you can use price per wear. I wouldn't use price per wear on I don't know, a St. Michael t-shirt. I wouldn't do that. That seems like a bad idea. Because it's cotton. It's going to get yellow pit stains probably, or chances are you're probably throwing it in a dryer and it's going to get a hole in it or something soon. But, something like a nice pair of boots, that's in the conversation. And you can totally find really nice pieces, or maybe you can spend that $1,000 or so on that pair of boots. But if it's the last pair of boots that you're really going to use, it's kind of worth it. Maybe not, but it's still kind of worth it. For me, those MA Crosses that I mentioned earlier, they were sold to me by a friend in 2017 who told me, quote, "These are the last pair of boots you'll ever need." Technically, he was right, because they're the last pair of boots I ever needed, but they're not the last pair of boots I ever bought, obviously. I've gotten many boots. Well, not many boots since then. I've tried to cut down on my spending and cut down on my consumption in general. But yeah, I think that having expensive ass high use items is worth it. It's worth it. And this can really help you once you've nailed down those first two ideas. So once you know where your wardrobe is going, and once you have identified versatile pieces for your wardrobe, then you can go on and set about getting the nicest versions of them if you so choose. I personally prefer doing it because there's nothing like running outside of the house and just grabbing the first 4 or 5 things that you see, and it just kind of goes together. You can make everything work without making everything monochromatic. If you have a certain vibe to your closet, I guess that's sort of, figuring out the direction of it. But yeah, definitely use all 3 of these tips, and hopefully you will have a wardrobe that you are more happy with at the end of the day. That's all I have for right now. I'll be back again as soon as I can think of something else to talk about. Yeah. I'm Joshua Galbraith. This has been I Have a Problem, and I have a problem. Thank you, and goodbye.